Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast. I'm your host, Ril Dil Quinn, on this 19th of July, 2022. Hope everybody out there is staying cool. Hope everybody out there is enjoying their summer. This is like officially kind of like the halftime of summer when you think about it. At the Major League Baseball All-Star break tomorrow, where you had the ESPYs, chance to get caught up on your Netflix documentaries, your books if you're reading on vacation, what have you. Hopefully, you get the kids out the house for summer camp. You can just get some relaxation time, especially if you are married, get some kid free time. But this is that part of summer. It's kind of a little bit of a dead part of summer. But is it really? Is it really? Because we have a busy program. There was stuff that I had to leave off the docket in terms of what's going on. To be honest with you, but that's just the way our society is right now. It never stops, and especially even with the sports, there are seemingly no off seasons. But we begin with LeBron James. LeBron James went back to the Drew League this past weekend. You saw him as he had 42 points and 16 rebounds. He played about 10 years ago. 2011 was the last time he went. That was during the lockout. Remember, that was during the lockout. That's when you had a bunch of guys kind of like barnstorming and playing. I mean, um, I think Kobe did the Drew League that season as well with James Harden and what have you. So it's been over a decade since LeBron had been in the Drew League. Again, everything LeBron does is strategic. Like everything, there's nothing he doesn't do, nothing he doesn't say that doesn't come without thought or some type of strategy in regards to it. So he's in the Drew League on Saturday. He comes out with the shop on Friday. The shop drops on Friday afternoon. So that basically LeBron was in the sports news cycle for the better part of the weekend, for the entire weekend, and even right now, to be honest with you, especially and with what's going on with the Los Angeles Lakers. So LeBron is a master at staying in our minds and having us talk about him and doing content on him. That's that he does that as well as any athlete in the world, to be perfectly honest with you. And again, listen, you can say what you want about should he about him gravitating towards attention, which this clearly was. But I just think that LeBron's at a stage in his career where I really believe you gave him the acid test, the truth serum, not the acid test. That's the wrong phrase I wanted to use. You gave him the truth serum, you gave him the best lie detector test on earth, and asked him, does he think he's going to win a championship? The answer probably would be no. So he has to take wins wherever he can get them. To be honest with you, last year it would have been him winning the scoring title, finishing All NBA third team as in year 19, which is unheard of. Playing almost averaging 30 points a game, playing at all-star level, all-star captain again, and deservedly so getting voted, having the most all-star votes. So he has to take these small wins. Especially considering the fact that he's partially responsible for the Laker mess in regards to what's going on with Russell Westbrook right now, or what transpired with Russell Westbrook over the course of this past season. Like, he's partially responsible for that. I give the Lakers organization number one responsibility for that, because they didn't have to sign him. In spite of what LeBron wanted, they could have told LeBron, no, we're going to go in a different direction. But that is water under the bridge at this standpoint. But LeBron has to take these wins any which way. And now, and of course, coming up in the season, regardless of what happens, even if somehow Kyrie Irving does get on the team, is traded for it, they're not a championship contender. So, the big win for LeBron will be this season, passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to become the all-time greatest scorer in NBA history. So that is where he is right now. He just became a billionaire. He, continues his business. He can, he has his sons, I should say, because he has a younger son who doesn't get as much attention, who might end up being the better out of the two sons, to be honest with you. I could easily see uh Bryce could end up being better than Bronny James. Don't be surprised by that. We have another situation with like Serena and Venus Williams. Um, so he has to take these wins wherever he can get them. And so initially I thought, oh, this is a attention grab, but you know what? Hey man, live your best life. Like and go out there and by the way, the most important one of the most important parts of this is there are some fans out there who probably wouldn't be able to see LeBron James play at the Staples Center because of how expensive those tickets are. And those Laker tickets are some of the most expensive tickets in the NBA. Who were able to see him in that middle school gym. So good for LeBron from that standpoint. You put on the show. Is a middle school gym not only could seat like 1,000, end up having like 2,500 people there. The people basically were basically on the court in some sense. So you had that going on with LeBron James. He says he's 100% healthy. I think that's another part of this that we have to realize. He wanted you to see like, hey, I still could do this at a high level. It's against lower competition. Now, there are some pros there that play. These are guys that are some. You got DeMar DeRozan there. These some guys that are in some pros that are either undrafted or are in the league, right now who are lesser names as far as notoriety. So it's not like he's playing against pickup guys off the street. Like, no, these guys can play, but they're not this is not top tier talent. You know how these leagues go: Rucker League, Drew League, some of these leagues across the country. There are guys who are career pros in summer leagues who I would call summer league professionals. That's their NBA. The Drew League, the Rucker League, that is their NBA. I witnessed it myself personally in when I used to visit when I used to go visit Indiana during the summertime. When Sean Kemp played in one of those leagues, where it's like a semi-pro. It's like a pro semi-pro league, and those guys take those. And by the way, those guys, LeBron's just there, just putting on the show, doing some stuff, toying, kind of doing some stuff, working on some stuff that he's new moves and stuff like that. It's practice to him. It's not even practice. It's like a workout to him. There are guys there that take it. That's like Game 7 of their NBA Finals. I've seen it up close and personal how serious these guys can take it. So yeah, you might see LeBron and DeMar DeRozan who can make it look easy because they're at that level to where they can make the games look easy and make it seem like they're not playing hard, which they're not. In essence, they're not going all out. But those other guys, those non-star players, they're playing hard. Trust me, I've seen these guys go just 1,000, be on 1,000 up playing against, especially playing against the likes of a LeBron or DeMar DeRozan and some other NBA stars who used to play in these events. You will see a guy, like I said, you will see, back in the day, Kevin Durant playing these games, James Harden, guys of that nature. Around the NBA. So speaking of James Harden, now this deal is still not official, but all reports indicates that he's going to take a pay cut. That could be up a pay cut, at least a $15 million pay cut. Now, that has allowed the Sixers to have a very good offseason. They signed PJ Tucker, DeAndre Melton, and Daniel House. They lost Danny Green, which is not that big of a deal when you replace him with those three players. Harden seemingly is refocused, been in the gym, claims, seems to be in the right place mentally, says he needs to get healthy, that he wasn't right last year physically. He physically wasn't right last year still. And almost averaged triple double. He did an interview with Yahoo over the weekend or right before the weekend. And of course, he had to again, when you do interviews with these guys, you always have to allow them to promote their products. Of course, you want to talk about a new wine that he's starting. That's an affordable wine, a Merlot or whatever. But that's fine. But that is what it is. So he's going to take a pay cut, right? And the question is, there are some questions around the league about why would he take a pay cut? Like, this is like not normal for a guy. Like, there, you would think that, hey, if the Sixers were not going to give him super max money, that there was at least one team, if he decided to become a free agent and not opt in, he decided to become a free agent and test the market, that there would at least be one team, but that of course was not the case. He chose to stay with the Sixers and says that he is committed, to winning a championship. And right now, is saying all the right things. As I look up his current contract status, okay, so yeah, so he has it's a 2 year. It is a 2 year. So he is a right now. So he basically signs a 1+1, and he has a player option for both years. He has a 2 year, $68 million contract for the Sixers. The annual salary is going to be $34 million. So year one this year will be 32 million. Year two will be 35 million, and he can't be traded until, as a trade restriction, can't be traded until December of this year, 2022. Of course, he has a player option. It's a 1+1 in essence. He could become a free agent after next year. We'll see what happens with that. But again, he allowed the Sixers to, he allowed the Sixers. Anyway, this is the preliminary offer. Was agreed. They said July 8th was agreed point. Nothing's official, but this is like a preliminary offer. But again, he declined in a $47 million option that he could have made. He could have made $47 million this year. So he basically, again, he took a pay cut from that standpoint, and basically, in essence, allowed the Sixers to make moves to sign other players and also bet on himself. Because he's playing for another contract. He wants it. Don't mistake. Like, James Harden has a ton of money. He's made a ton of money in terms of his career earnings. He's made, Adidas. James Harden is not hurting for money, but he don't. Let's not kid ourselves. He wants another big contract. Looking at his career earnings here, he's had career earnings of $268 million. With this contract, is going to be over $300 million. But again, that doesn't count like endorsements and what have you. So he is playing, and again, you're going to have three future Hall of Famers that I'm going to mention on this podcast. Three guys that were in the top 75. Well, no, two of them were in the top 75, but three guys that are going to Hall of Fame that are playing for contracts in the future. That are playing for future contracts this year. So the question is, is he getting paid under the table? Why would he do this from a financial standpoint? Listen, here's what I'll say. I'll somewhat give him the benefit of the doubt from this standpoint. James Harden has had a rough, 2 years. Okay. Let's go back to the bubble in 2020. No, let's go back to 2019. 2019, you have an opportunity to beat Golden State without Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant gets hurt, I believe, game 5. They lose that game. Then they go home and lose game 6. This happened in 2019. Of course, it was a no-show, put up some numbers, but again, came up small. Then he gets Chris Paul shipped out of town for Russell Westbrook, which will go down as one of the just dumbest, most idiotic trades of all time, considering where the careers of those guys have went. Chris Paul has just been all NBA ever since, and leading teams to the finals and leading teams to the playoffs every year, while Russell Westbrook is where he's at in his career right now. So he's terrible. He was bad against the Lakers in that Western Conference semifinal in 2020. Okay. Last year, that year in 2021, in 2020, also he forces his way out of Houston. and he forces his way out of Houston. That very same year, forces his way out of Houston, goes to Brooklyn. Brooklyn gives it all these picks. We know where Brooklyn stands right now. Harden ends up pulling a hamstring in game 1 of the Eastern Conference semifinals last year, and physically seemingly hasn't been right since and hasn't played well since. So he kind of needs to rehabilitate his immediate reputation in order to get another long-term contract. And again, until he comes up big in the playoffs, he's going to be known as Mr. Regular Season until he comes up big in the postseason. And again, he does not have to be the guy anymore. Like that, like is, he has to be just a clear number 2 on a team that could possibly compete for a championship, and that has major question marks on whether or not he could be a clear number 2. We'll see. Listen, all this sounds nice right now, and if you want to give him credit for giving Philly, a discount and them getting players, okay, cool. Go out there, play 70, 75 games, what have you, and 70 to 75 games, and go out there and do it in the playoffs. Performing, because that's all that matters. Like none of this makes any difference if he goes out there in April and coughs up and has another putrid playoff performance. We'll be talking about this, having the same conversation about James Harden that we've had over the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah, great in the regular season, terrible in the playoffs. But this is a step in the right direction. It was actually big for the Philadelphia franchise. And to be honest with you, I think his performance had reached a level to where I don't think Philadelphia was even going to give him that money. That's my thinking of it. I think that I think that he in representation probably read the market and probably said, you know what, I don't want to do, just from an image standpoint, I don't want to do another stop. I don't want to go to another team. I don't want to go to another team. I want another big contract. The only way I can get another big contract is by doing it in Philadelphia. Either they will pay me or somebody else will pay me based on my performance. So, in essence, he's betting on himself, and he also puts the Philadelphia Sixers in a much, much better spot moving forward, especially in the immediate future. Deandre Ayton stays in Phoenix. One of the quickest matching of a salary offer sheet that you'll ever see. Phoenix, Indiana signed on Friday, or it might have been Thursday. I'm getting these days mixed up. Signed Deandre Ayton to an offer sheet, 4 years, $133 million. Phoenix did not waste any time and matched the offer sheet, which by all intents and purposes, they absolutely had to match the offer sheet. They could not allow Deandre Ayton to walk for nothing. They couldn't do it. You can't, he's still an asset. He's still a tradable asset. Now, he can't be traded until he can't be traded until January. And then he has to sign off on a particular trade, but he's still property. I should say property. Shouldn't say that. He's still under contract with the Phoenix Suns. They still have one of the better teams in the Western Conference. They'll still be a contender. They're not a favorite. I wouldn't put them as a favorite, but they still, this was something that just had to happen in Phoenix. You cannot allow this guy to walk for nothing. Now, as far as what this does with the Kevin Durant situation, obviously it makes it harder in the immediate future for them to get Kevin Durant. But who knows? The way it's going right now, Kevin Durant could be available to the Phoenix Suns, say, come the All-Star break around the trade deadline next year. So I'm not going to say that Kevin Durant to Phoenix is dead. I would say is on hold, right, for the immediate future. But more importantly for Phoenix, this was an absolute no-brainer. Phoenix could have actually saved themselves a lot of headache and maybe some money had they signed him before last season. Period. Like they messed around all day. They clearly misgauged his value in the marketplace, in terms of the marketplace. Remember, folks, all it takes is one team to feel like you're worth a certain amount of money. That's all it takes. It doesn't take, you don't need 5, 10, 12, 5, 10, 15 teams. All you need is one team to say, hey, We think you're a max player. And clearly, the Indiana Pacers were in a position where, again, have a hard time drawing free agents. They're about to lose. They want to move Miles Turner. So it made perfect sense for them to make that offer sheet to DeAndre Ayton. But again, I think that this does not kill the Kevin Durant trade to Phoenix long term, but just in the immediate future, it definitely curtails that, pushes that back for in terms of the immediate future. Russell Westbrook and his agent, of course, his agent part ways. But you know what this tells me? This tells me that Westbrook doesn't have everybody in Westbrook's circle or people that he listens to are not yes men. That's what that tells me. Because you clearly had his agent. Now, his agent claims that he was going to advise Westbrook to stay in Los Angeles with the Lakers and make the best out of this possible situation. So why that makes sense? You say to yourself, well, why would he want to stay in LA? Because why would Russell Westbrook want to stay in a place that doesn't want him? Right. Clearly the Lakers want to trade Russell Westbrook. LeBron James wants Russell Westbrook out. It's not even a question. The reason why, if you're Russell Westbrook, that you don't want to get moved again is whoever he gets moved to, right? Chances are that team is going to buy him out. Agents, NBA agents don't, that's like a scarlet letter for an NBA agent with his client. Because once you get bought out, it seems like your value in the league plummets and you are like a spare part. And clearly, this guy, Fouché, I think that's the name of his agent. Clearly, he and Russell Westbrook had a close relationship. He had been his agent his entire career, all 14 years of his career. Got Russell paid, they made a lot of money together. Every time Russell wanted out in a particular situation, he was able to accommodate Russell Westbrook from that standpoint in terms of getting him out of, whether it was out of Oklahoma City, out of Houston, out of Washington. I have to side with the agent because what the agent's saying makes perfect sense. If you're Russell Westbrook, if you go out there this year, let's say he isn't traded, which is distinctly possible. It is. I mean, everybody talks about Kyrie Irving possibly not getting moved before the season starts. It's a strong possibility that Russell Westbrook will be on the Lakers at the beginning of the season. It's a very much possibility. I shouldn't say strong possibility, but a possibility. That possibility does exist. It's not an automatic that he will be moved because, listen, it's just the market out there is just not there for him. And his agent knows that. His agent knows that better than any of us. That's what they do. That's their job, to understand the market value of their client, respective client. So if Westbrook stays with the Lakers and somehow can salvage this season, let's say the Lakers make the playoffs. Let's say the Lakers are not title contenders, but let's say he goes out there, plays relatively well. The Lakers make a playoff run to like the second round, even get eliminated in the first round by somebody that's clearly better. At least Westbrook's a free agent after this year. At least if you're a Russell Westbrook agent, you can say, hey, despite the fact that you can spin it, and these agents are the ultimate spin doctors. Hey, Russell, committed to this team. He helped them get to the playoffs. There's still some gas left in the tank. Blah blah blah. He's not going to get another max contract. We know those days are over, but he will get. He probably could play himself into another contract to kind of like take him into the sunset of the twilight of his career. He probably could play himself into a 2-year, $25 million, 2-year, $30 million contract, somewhere in that range. That's what his agent's thinking. That's what Tad Fouché is thinking. But if you go the route of you're traded and get bought out, which by the way is going to happen. Nobody wants Russell Westbrook. That is the overall writing theme of this. No one in the NBA wants Russell Westbrook without without either compensation or a scenario where he gets bought out. Nobody wants him on their team. Period. That is the big pick. That's where we're at with in regards to Russell Westbrook. You don't want him around your young players, and we already know based off last season, based off his season-ending exit interview, that he's not committed to winning. And from a standpoint of he's not going to do the things that takes to win in regards to doing the little things, the dirty work. He's not going to do that. So if you're a veteran team, you're like, no, this guy clearly thinks he can't be a third cog behind 2 stars. He couldn't. Yeah, no, he can't. You can't put him on the Clippers. You can't put him on a contending team, and he just fit in. No, that's just not going to happen. So in essence, Russell Westbrook's agent was basically calling him out. Saying, look, you need to just man up, swallow your pride, go out there, ball out this year, and see what happens. And again, he's 1,000% right. Russell Westbrook gets traded and gets bought out. His value in this league is that it would be at an all-time low. Like I said, he would be looked upon as like a spare part. Period. He might be even done. He might even be out the league. And again, I could listen. I said this a couple of months ago on a few earlier this season, maybe in the fall, maybe 6 or 7 months ago. Do not be surprised. Don't be surprised if this is the last year that you see Russell Westbrook playing basketball in the NBA. Because I just don't know where, considering his mentality, I don't know if there's a place for him in the league, considering where the game is going and considering his mentality. He does not seem like he's real. He does not seem like to take any accountability. He does not seem like he's going to evolve anytime soon. He's getting older. It's not time. He's getting older. So to me, he's more set in his ways than he's ever been. He's more set in his ways than he's ever been. He's going 10 toes down on what on the type of player that he is. Not going to change for anybody. Now, in regards to this alleged phone call that took place between LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook, unless that phone call involved them calling out Westbrook or calling out each other, like, hey, Anthony, we need you on the floor. Like, yeah, we need you on the floor. We need you to be a dominant top 5 player. We need you to be an MVP of this team. Russ, you can't be amongst the league leaders in turnovers. You gotta have a better shot selection. You gotta have a better decision making. You gotta at least try to play defense. Unless that conversation took place on that phone call, then what are we talking about here? What are we doing? This is a classic, like, let's make it seem like we're all on the same page, just in case we all are teammates come, training camp and come the opening of the season in late October, early November. No one's fooled by this. I mean, let's be honest. Like I said, LeBron James, and forget about Anthony Davis for a second. He doesn't have any power within that organization. This is LeBron James. LeBron James does not want Russell Westbrook on the team moving forward. Period. So, as the world turns, as the Lakers turns, it'll be a continual soap opera up until the regular season, maybe even throughout the regular season. Again, I have a feeling that this is looking more and more like no one's going to be traded. Like Westbrook, Kyrie, Durant, like these guys are not going to be traded anytime soon. Getting back to Durant and Kyrie for a second, Durant, there are people around the league and a couple of general managers on the course, off the record have said that it's not that the fact that they are worried about Durant's age or injuries that have happened over the past couple of years. It's not that why the reason of why his value is not what you would think it is. It's the fact that they are afraid that they will not be able to keep Kevin Durant happy. And you think, and it makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, he wasn't happy in Golden State. He wasn't happy, which is the best basketball organization in the world, the best NBA organization, in the league right now. He wasn't happy in Brooklyn where he basically had the keys to the kingdom. How can we compete with that? How are we going to make him happy? What's going to keep him from doing to us what he's done to Brooklyn? What he's doing to Brooklyn right now? Like want to trade a year or 2 years into his contract. So that is what you're hearing from a few of these front office people around the league on terms of why the trade market has cooled on Kevin Durant, along with the fact that the Brooklyn Nets are asking for just, the world in regards to what they want in return. And listen, Toronto, we said it before, Toronto is not giving up Scotty Barnes. It's just not going to happen. And no one else really has, no one else that we've heard mentioned has the capital to even put up a respectful a deal that Brooklyn would even look at. Like the teams that have the capital are not even on the radar. Like Boston has the capital. Boston, Memphis, those teams have no interest in trade for Kevin Durant. They don't. Golden State thing is a pipe dream. That's not going to happen. I just don't see it at all. I don't see Golden State. I don't care what. And by the way, I don't care what was said. Well, Steph would be with it, and we open to it. Sure, Steph, Steph is open to. Steph is open to winning. Steph is open to winning, but I don't see a situation where Kevin Durant would want to go back to Golden State. I just don't. That to me would just, like I said, I would be beyond. I would be actually shocked if that were to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. And by the way, if I'm Golden State, I'm just not doing it. I see what I have in these young players that are developing. I believe in my own player development. We'll cross the bridge with Draymond and Klay Thompson on those decisions in the future. We know Jacob Lacob has been talking about, he's not going to spend as much money. I'll believe that when I see it. How about that? I will actually believe that when I see it. So it is a distinct possibility that, again, that Westbrook, Kyrie Irving, and Durant will be members of Brooklyn and the Los Angeles Lakers when the season starts. Doesn't mean that they will finish there. I'm just saying when the season begins. So over the weekend, the big news in baseball, along with the All-Star break, was Juan Soto, the immensely talented superstar out of Washington for the Washington Nationals, who is at 23 years old, one of the best young players in baseball, and who is going to get a boatload of money, turns down a $440 million deal over 15 years. Now, the reason why he turned it down was simple. There's a couple of reasons why he turned it down. Number one, Scott Boras is his agent. We know Scott Boras, who was the agent for Alex Rodriguez, agent for Bryce Harper as well. Scott Boras he doesn't just do big contracts. He does historic contracts. The Bryce Harper was a historic contract. The Alex Rodriguez was a historic contract. So he's not looking to just be, Boras is too smart for that. And the bottom line is, had Soto signed this contract, he would have only been like 20th all time. It only have ranked him 20th in terms of annual salary per year. He's looking to be, if you're Juan Soto, you're 23 years old, you're arguably the best young player. No, you are the best young player in baseball. You've already won a championship. There's a guy who already has 3 World Series home runs. Think about that. Helped this team win the World Series, 23 years old, and can hit for we know how talented Juan Soto is. So they're looking for like $500 million in essence in terms of a contract, and looking for him to be the highest paid player, not in terms of total value of contract, but in terms of annual value of the contract. Normally, I would say, if I'm the Nationals, I would say no. We cannot make you the highest paid player of all time. Um, because you look at the history, it has not turned out well for these franchises that have signed these mega deals, right? So you look at the top 10 contracts of all time. You got Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, Francisco Lindor, Fernando Tatis, Bryce Harper, Giancarlo Stanton, Corey Seager, Garrett Cole, Manny Machado, and Alex Rodriguez. Only one of those guys over the course of their contract won a championship with that team, and that was A-Rod in 2009 Yankees. Remember, Mookie Betts signed his deal after they won the World Series in 2020. His contract was signed in 2021, and it goes from 2021 to 2032 at a total of $365 million. So history tells us that you don't sign these type guys to these contracts and to be able to build around that team. The key is pitching. We all know that. This is why I'm going against my own conventional wisdom, and this is why I'm going to tell you why. If you're the Washington Nationals, you have to sign Juan Soto. It's not even a question. First of all, the Nationals are 3 years removed from a World Series championship, right? Normally, you get a grace period of like 5 years when you win a championship in sports, where where your fans, people will kind of give you the benefit of the doubt. Unfortunately, that grace period has been kind of wiped away because of the pandemic. Some of the luster of that championship is kind of, unfortunately, it's not fair, but this is the way things just how life works sometimes. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic and because everybody's life changed in March of 2020, people kind of forget that they won a championship in the fall of 2019. And they're going to be facing now. They're going to be looking at a third straight losing season. They are in the midst of an ownership change. You have a farm system that is near or is 29th in baseball. So if you don't sign Juan Soto, what exactly are you selling to your fan base? Why, if I'm a Washington Nationals fan, would I come to the ballpark? And by the way, you have decreased your own spending as far as your payroll. Like, you're going in the opposite direction. Like the Nationals, the Nationals payroll had been, for the most part, since 2014, have been only outside of the top 10, only twice outside of the top 10 since 2014. 2014, they were 9th. 15, they were 6th. 16, they were 11th. 17, they were 9th. 18, they were 5th. 19, they were 4th. 2020, they were 12th. Last year they were 9th, and this year they're 20th. So they're going in the direction of they're not right now spending money. Okay, they're in a rebuilding, reload. I can't even call it reloading, rebuilding. They traded off Trey Turner, got rid of Trey Turner and Max Scherzer. We'll see if those prospects will provide benefits in the future. Too early right now, but the bottom line is, you're Nationals right now. You have no other choice but to sign Soto, because he is all you have. Especially, you're not like the Tampa Bay Rays, where you can lose a superstar and then tell your fan base, hey, we have one of the best farm systems and player development. We're going to be not only we can create another star, but we're going to be competitive at the same time. Right now, the Tampa Bay Rays are leading the wild card race in the American League, despite having 15 players on the IR right now. Okay, 15, and these are some of their main guys. The Nationals don't have that type of luxury, because their farm system is horrible, and frankly, the player development has not been good over the past couple of years. So you let him go, again, you are maybe in this town, in the DMV, you are without question behind the Commanders and Capitals as far as popularity, and you may even be behind. I would say I could make it an argument. You could be behind the DC United, considering they just signed Wayne Rooney to coach him. I could really make that argument that you are fourth amongst the major sports in this town, in the DMV. So Juan Soto is all you have. And on top of it, if I'm a prospective buyer of a franchise, am I really going to buy a franchise without Juan Soto? How much value does a franchise have without Juan Soto? How much? So I'm going to spend, $1 billion or so, $1 billion and some change on a franchise with no centerpiece when I could have one of the biggest stars in all of baseball. So again, to me, it's an absolute no-brainer. This is a guy who has gotten off to a historic start in his career. Like, he's gotten off to a start that rivals the likes of an Alex Rodriguez, Ken Griffey Jr., Mike Trout, those type guys, Mickey Mantle. When you look at his numbers, some of the numbers that he's put up before the age of 23. Miguel Cabrera is another one I could put up there. This is an absolute no-brainer. You have to sign this guy. You have to like you. It's like I can't. You cannot trade. You can't trade him even this year. You cannot. It would be a disaster. The Nationals trade this guy. They will be picking up their pieces. They'll be done for the next 4 to 5 years. They will be in a tank for another 4 to 5 years. They will actually set their franchise back. And again, what message are you sending? Okay, so the Nationals have been pretty good in regards to who to pay, who not to pay, right? I remember back in the day when they signed Jason Worth, right? Now they called Jason Worth at the back end of his career. He had his best years in Philadelphia. We know this, but that was a big signing from a standpoint of, hey, we are here to compete. We feel like we can compete with some of these big spending teams. We're here to try to win the championships. So I understood it. It made sense. Like, the Nationals have been a organization that has taken big swings, trading to get Max Scherzer. And they've made some savvy decisions. Like, I agree with them 1,000% in letting Bryce Harper go, letting Bryce Harper walk. I like that they won the championship the following year. I know Bryce Harper has won the MVP since with Philadelphia, and is a very good player. But what has Philadelphia done since they signed Bryce Harper? They don't have any. They don't have any playoff appearances. They let Jeremy Rendon go. Again, smart move. Jeremy Rendon was at the twilight of his career when they let him go. They got the best out of him. He hasn't done anything with the Angels. Trey Turner, completely disagree with. They should have re-signed Trey Turner. So for the most part, the Nationals have made solid decisions when it's come to things like things of this nature. If they were to let him go, this is a guy. This is a different animal here from a standpoint. This guy is. You can't let a 23-year-old player of this magnitude, with everything that's going on with your franchise, they just can't afford to not re-sign him. They just can't, as a franchise. Like, they need him way more than he needs them. He will get his money regardless. Somebody's going to give him $500 million. This is a matter of somewhere, wherever the team that trades for him, he's going to get a $500 million contract somewhere. This is a matter of when and who. But if you let this guy go, even I don't care if you get the best prospects from whatever organization. And again, if you are going to trade him, now is the time. Don't wait next year. Yeah, no. Now you do it right now. If you are going to trade him, but again, I don't think they can afford, for the sake of their franchise moving forward, you cannot afford to trade Juan Soto. You just can't do it. You cannot. They can't do it. It would be it would be a franchise changing move. It would be in terms of them going in the wrong direction if they were to trade this guy. It would be. I'm just telling you right now. Again, this goes against what I fundamentally believe in terms of these large signing these super mega contracts. But this situation is different to me with this guy. It's different. It's just considering where the franchise is at, considering their lack of the lack of player development and things that with their farm system, considering the town that they're in, the market that they're in, they can't they need Juan Soto. Period. Period. So we transition to the British Open. Of course, you had another 28 under future star winning the British Open. Cameron Smith tied a record, goes 20 under, ties a record of lowest major score, lowest score in the major. Again, 28 years old, a guy who had a big year, won the tour championship, joining the likes of Jack Nicklaus is the only one to do that, and just was a putt machine in the final round. Sometimes, and I know Rory McIlroy took a lot of heat, coming up short again in a major. His major drought now goes to 8 years. Hasn't won a major since 2014. But I think we got to be fair. Sometimes you get beat in sports. Sometimes it's not always about choking and coming out small. Again, Rory has been an easy punching bag. But when you go back and look at what Rory's done since he won his last major, and it was just I've been a guy, again, fair or unfair. I've been a guy that's kind of knocked Rory McIlroy, saying that he's wasting his talent, blah blah blah. But the bottom line is this: so he's played 30 majors. Rory McIlroy has played 30 majors since 2014. He has 18 top 10 finishes, 9 top 5 finishes. In the history of golf, he's won 4 majors. Remember, he's only one major shy. He's only a master shy of completing the career Grand Slam, which has only been done by 5 other players. Only 19 players ever have more majors than Rory McIlroy's 4. Only 19. Think about that for a second. So, you can only knock Rory so much, to be honest with you. Remember, he's almost a victim of his own early success. He had 4 majors by the age of 25. And he was a guy, he was the first guy people called the next Tiger. People, this guy's going to be the next Tiger. Because he was winning majors so fast. Now, ever since then, we've had Jordan Spieth and Brooks Koepka be labeled that early because they started winning majors so quick. Koepka has 4, Spieth has 3. All those majors they've won are within the first couple of years of their respective careers. They were winning them so fast, and now both those guys have slowed down immensely in the last couple of years. So McIlroy was the first of that ilk, right? He wins his first major at a young age. Wins his 4th major by the age of 25. And I just think it was expected that he would have by like 10 majors by now. It's not how golf works, folks. Golf, in terms of competitive balance, golf is the talent pool in the golf is as deep as it's ever been. There are more quality players now. It is harder to win a tournament more now than ever. Even during the Tiger Woods era, when Tiger was winning, even the era where you had the big 4. Remember, you had Tiger, like it was Tiger, Vijay Singh, Retief Goosen, Phil Mickelson. I'm leaving somebody else out, but those were in essence the big 4 at one point. This was like in the late 90s, mid 2000s. Nobody won tournaments other than those 4 or 5 golfers, as far as especially at majors. Tiger, Retief Goosen, Tiger, Goosen, Ernie Els, B.J. Singh, Phil Mickelson. Like they were dominant. Even with that, it's even deeper. Is those are the golfers that were dominant at the time at up top. But you look at now, every year there's a guy that wins one of these majors that's under 30. Uh, that's gonna that people call that say that people say that could be the next great golfer. Like that's happening every year. like this dude, like it's almost again, it's almost it's hard to win majors. This in the PGA on the PGA tour, it's hard to win majors now. It is the field is so deep. Um, so I think you gotta be fair when you talk about Rory McIlroy and you gotta be really look at what he's done in terms of his career, like how consistent he's been over the especially during this drought, this major drought. Like I said, he is going to be in the top 5 in terms of rankings. He's going to be in a single. He's going to almost be in every major. Look at Rory this year, right? To give you a sense. So he finishes. He finished in the top 8 of all 4 majors this year. Think about what I just said. He finished in the top 8 of all 4 majors this year, including a runner-up at the Masters, including a 3rd place finish at the British Open. That is a great year. That is a career year for most golfers, for like 95% of the golfers on the tour. But again, when you win early and often, it creates expectations that may be somewhat unrealistic. And I believe, if he continues to play at this level, he's going to win some more majors. Now, is he going to win 10 to 15 majors? No. But could I see Rory McIlroy winning 2 or 3 more majors? Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Can I see him winning another major, a major or 2? Yeah, maybe 3 is too much. Could Rory McIlroy conceivably win 2 more majors over the course of his career? One, yes. He's only 33 years old. He's not an old man. He hasn't had a ton of injuries and nothing like that. So I think you got to be real careful about how you gauge this Rory McIlroy's career. It doesn't fall in the category of underachieving. Like there are guys Fred Couples underachieved for his career in terms of talent. He has 1 major, he should have more. John Daly has 2 majors, he should have more. Those are guys. Greg Norman should have more majors. Those are 3 guys that clearly, as far as their talent and how gifted they were, should have won more majors without question. Rory McIlroy is nowhere near that. Nowhere near that list. And some would say Phil Mickelson, but I think it's ridiculous to say a guy with 6 majors underachieved, especially coming along in the Tiger Woods era. I think that's just, you want to, did Phil cough up some majors? Sure. But I can't say a guy with 6 majors. Like there are only probably 10 guys that have more majors than Phil Mickelson all time underachieved. As talented as he is, and he was uber talented. We know how talented a golfer Phil Mickelson was. On par with Tiger as far as his talent goes. One of the few, probably the only golfer that we can say that's ever been on close to even on par in terms of pure talent as Tiger Woods that we saw. But the guy has 6 majors, so it's like I can't say he's underachieved. As far as Tiger goes, so again another rough outing for Tiger this year in the majors. He played in 3. He withdrew 1, and he missed the U.S. Open. Withdrew he played in the Masters, withdrew PGA, missed the U.S. Open, and finishes out in the British Open, not making the cut. His highest finish this year in the major was 47th in the Masters, which that's his favorite all-time course. We know how well he's played over there over the course of his career. You got a sense, it's almost sad to watch, to be honest with you, this version of Tiger Woods. His body is just, he looks completely shot in terms of his body. I'm not even talking about in terms of his game, but just his body. Right now, he physically just doesn't have it. And he knows he doesn't have it physically. And you see him take the farewell, the walk on 18 and get emotional because he realizes that it probably is going to be his last time at St. Andrews. St. Andrews. He's not saying he says that he'll play in future British Opens, but it won't, this tournament won't be in St. Andrews again for another, 5 to 6 years. And he can't just the way he's feeling physically cannot envision his body making it to 50 and 51 in terms of as a professional playing professional golf. That's just all there is to it. We know how close he is to his kids at this stage. So and again, this is a very prideful individual. Tiger, I can't see Tiger being happy and content with missing the cut and being kind of like looked upon as like a, as kind of like somebody who I don't see Tiger wanting the Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer treatment from a standpoint at the end of their careers when they were, when people knew they couldn't win tournaments, but they was just there to clap along, that they were there as kind of like symbolic figures. I don't see Tiger in that vein being want to be perceived as that moving forward in years. And like, I just can't see it with Tiger Woods. This guy is one of the most competitive athletes ever. I will put his competitive up there with Brady, Michael Jordan, anybody that has dared play a sport. Tiger Woods is right there as far as competitive, as a competitor. And again, physically, right now he just doesn't have it physically. He just can't the guy almost lost his leg. That doesn't even including the back and injuries that he's had. Just, his body is like a mash unit. Like, and again, he is a, 46 in golf is not old. Like, it's really not. 46 in golf is not old. Unlike all other, other sports, you would be retired. 46, you could still be in your prime at 46 in golf, especially with nutrition and physical fitness the way people are in shape right now, in terms of athletes training year round. Tiger Woods his body is probably closer to 60 right now, to be honest with you. He can barely walk. It's a struggle for him to walk the 18 holes. I'm sure. I'll be honest with you. If Tiger was allowed to do a golf cart, I'm sure he would do it. Like, if that would, I'm sure he probably wouldn't. He might not. He probably wouldn't do that. But it is a struggle for him to walk up and down the golf tournament, the golf courses, let alone swing a golf club right now. And if you told me that Tiger Woods at the how many years I'll give Tiger, maybe one more year, maybe he tries to rehabilitate his body in this, in this break. He probably won't play again until November. He has this tournament that he sponsors, his tournament, the Heroes Challenge, something like that. But if you told me next year will be Tiger's last year, I'm like, yeah, probably. Because again, I just don't see a guy who's just going to be content with not even being on the radar of these tournaments, missing cuts and withdrawing. No, that's not Tiger Woods. That's not how he was built. Like, that's not his mind, his mental makeup. And like I said, if it's one thing, if he was missing a cut and he was still enjoying playing, where it wasn't such a physical challenge, that'd be one thing. But right now, it's like, not only am I not winning, and not only am I not even in the mentions of being a contender, this hurts. So the physical is like, this physically is hurting. So it'll be interesting to see his career moving forward. Again, you will never bet. It's hard to ever bet against Tiger Woods not winning another major. So I'm not going to say that until he actually retires, because I didn't think 2019 was going to happen. But again, the body, the body is speaking for itself. Like, one thing, the body, your body lets you know when it's time, and it's getting close to that time, seemingly close to that time for Tiger to hang him up. We'll continue our series of The Wire at 20 reflections of, to me, the greatest series in television history. I just completed season 4, and a couple things that stood out. From number one, no McNulty this season. Very little McNulty this season. It's been well documented that the actor was not happy. Apparently, with the travel back and forth the first 3 seasons, and he wanted to explore some other options as well, in terms of opportunities and what have you. But regardless of that, they didn't need McNulty. Like season 4, they did, like the scenes that he was in were kind of like seemingly like, okay, yeah, sure. It was kind of like McNulty just having him in the scene just for the sake of being. Like in terms of the plot line, the story, they did not need him whatsoever. And it's really, I thought about this too with the actor Dominic West. So, and only a Wire nerd would notice something like this. So if you notice, every other characters, other than Dominic West's character, in the opening credits, every other character's name comes in alphabetical order. So, which to me, his name is first because he was considered the top, was considered the star of the show, which I like the star of, the star of the show was Baltimore. Like there was no star, there was no star, there was no individual character that was the star of the show. Now we all have our favorite characters. Like the most popular character I think pound for pound would be Omar if you took a vote. But there was no star of that show. So, but for whatever reason, listen, good for his agent, whoever negotiated that. I'm sure there was some money that came attached with his name coming first in the opening credits, whatever. The bottom line is season 4 did not need him at all. Like season 4, like I'll say this, if he had no scenes in season 4, you wouldn't have missed him. That's how great season 4 it was. Season 4 of The Wire was I think the best season of television, and the best season in the history of television. Period. It's somewhat triggering for me as an educator, seeing some of the stuff that took place, and you say, "Hey, like, yeah, I've seen this movie. I've seen this before. This is really how it can be." Also, the Jamie Hector performance as Marlo, this is the season that it really took shape. Now, season 5 will be the payoff, and we'll discuss that. We will discuss that on our next podcast in a couple weeks. We'll not be doing a podcast next week, but we'll discuss that in our next podcast next time about season 5, because I'll be done by season 5 is only 10 episodes, so I'll be done by season 5 by then. But season 4, the Jamie Hector Marlo Stanfield character, if you remember, I was never a fan in the moment of that character. It's like, what is this dude? He doesn't hardly speak. He's playing with pigeons. It's like, especially comparing him to Avon. Like Avon, out of all the drug kingpins and the bad guys, Avon is my favorite bad guy, without question, because of the humanity Avon had and the complexity of the character, which a lot of the Wire characters are complex. That's what makes partially what makes it an all-time great show. But the Marlo character, you really, if you watch again, just the efficiency and just the acting without saying nothing is a talent in itself. It's a masterclass by Jamie Hector. It really is. And like this season 4, just some of his just the body language of the character, you appreciate. You appreciate this more. 20 years. Well, this was 2000. You appreciate more after you rewatch the show a zillion times, which I had, and I noticed again this very underrated performance. People love now again people. The character is respected. Like people have Marlowe, is one of the top villains in television history. So the character, the writing of the character is respected, but I don't think there's enough respect paid to the actual performance. Jamie Hector is phenomenal as that character. Like he plays it to a T. And again, you will see we saw the payoff. He had to be kind of unassuming, he had to be kind of understated, but we saw the payoff in what transpired in season 5. So we will continue our wire reflections with the next podcast. On our next podcast. Biggest disappointment. This was an easy one. So over the weekend, you saw a video posted on Instagram where one of the characters of Sesame Place, Sesame Street. This happened at Sesame Place, which I literally grew up right down the road from Sesame Place in Langhorne, Pennsylvania. Only been there one time in my life, for the record. So this happened. This happened over the weekend where one of the characters, Rosita, walked past, greeted a couple of white kids, and then seemingly ignored and walked past two young little girls who are black, and this, of course, immediately when the parent posted this immediately was reacted to by all over the country and by celebrities, all over the world. So the parent of the young lady said that the park and immediately dismissed the incident. They claimed that sometimes the characters are so tall that they couldn't see the young ladies. They also say that they will conduct some bias training for their employees. They came out with a statement. So Sesame Place came out with a statement. They've come out with a couple of statements. I'll read them off. We will conduct training for our employees so they better understand, recognize, and deliver an inclusive, equitable, and entertaining experience to our guests. The statement read, which was also posted on Instagram: for over 40 years, Sesame Place has worked to uphold the values of respect, inclusion, and belonging. We are committed to doing a better job making children and families feel special, seen, and included when they come to our parks. They came out with another statement today, and I'll pull that up real quick on Instagram, that stated okay, here it is. And I won't read the entire thing. I'll read the bottom part of it. The first part of it is the normal PR mumbo jumbo. The performer portraying the Rosita character has confirmed that the no hand gesture seen several times in the video was not directed to any specific person. Rather, it was a response to multiple requests for someone in the crowd who asked Rosita to hold their child for a photo, which is not permitted. The Rosita performer did not intentionally ignore the girls and is devastated by the misunderstanding. We spoke to the family and extended our apologies and invited them back for a special meet and greet opportunity with our characters. We apologize to these guests for not delivering the experience they expected, and we commit to do our best to earn their and all guest visit and support. So, okay. And then today on the Daily Beast, a number of other videos came out where you had characters ignoring African-American children blatantly. I saw at least 2 to 3 videos. Here's the thing, right? So it's unfortunate that, first of all, this is something that's been embedded in Sesame Place. This is not a random act that just came out the blue. This is something that clearly has had been going on for years upon years. It just never, to me, had been caught on video. Okay. The parent has of the young ladies has threatened to sue if she's not happy with the actions that if she's not happy about the response that Sesame Place has. So she has threatened a lawsuit, and rightfully so. And here's what I'll say. So you have especially as African Americans, have an immediate response, an immediate way to kind of combat this. Number one, you want to hit somebody. Forget about, again, I'm not knocking the parents at all. I applaud the parent for posting this video on Instagram, making us aware of this. So that's, but other people commenting. Cool, you can comment, say this, that, and the third. I'm talking about it right now. The best way to hit Sesame Place is in the pockets. Just don't take your kid. Don't take your kids to Sesame Place. Number one, and don't buy any paraphernalia from Sesame Street and all that. Cut all that off. Okay, cut all of that off. Hit them in their pockets, because this is $100 million organization. This is a money. They're on Sesame Street is on HBO Max. They have money. They can basically, in some ways, print their own money. So they can deal with the backlash of a bad PR moment, or they can deal with some horrible PR, because in the society that we live in, we will be talking about this story for about 2 days and move on to the next thing. What they don't want to deal with, and what they can't deal with, is taking money out of their pockets, or their stock going down because African American families stop taking their kids. And I guarantee you, there are a big part of their gate is the black dollar. Trust me, I've been to such, like I said, I've been not only I've seen having visited home a number of times, and on my way to like the mall, that area, places I'm going, headed in the direction to, Sesame Place is right there. So you can see the people that are there. And again, there are a lot of African American families that support Sesame Place. Cut that off. You cut that off. And so you say to yourself, well, hey, Cyril, that would be very cruel to your child who wants to see these characters, and whose childhood, Sesame Place is a big part of their childhood. Yes, that would be a cruel thing to do. But you know what? As an educator, I'm not a parent, but as a parent, you have to see, if you're a parent, any good parent thinks about the long game, plays the long game as far as when they're raising their kids. As educators, we play the long game. So, and I say that that this is a teaching moment for your child, for that parent whose daughters went through that. It's an absolute teaching moment in terms of racism. They're going to have to be dealing with race, because this is going to be the first of many racist experiences they have over the course of their lives. This is just how it is in society, especially in 2022. Okay. So you take it as a teaching moment. You say, hey, not dealing with Sesame Place ever again. Your kids are gonna be pissed off. They're gonna be hurt in the immediate. They're gonna be hurt and disappointed. But in the long run, it will pay off. It's gonna pay off in the long run. And that would be my approach to this. Like I said, this is not a one-off. I don't believe this to be a one-off. They just got caught. It just so happened that they just got caught on video. Like I said, this is something that I'm sure this is something that has happened. It's not the first time that something like this has happened. And again, this is like racism around our country. It's systemic. So that character, whoever was in the Rosita suit, the Rosita, whoever was dressed as Rosita, feels comfortable with greeting white kids and ignoring black kids. That's just, I mean, that's a part that is something that's just not. I think two things can be true. I think it could be it's an individual choice, but I also think it's a part of the culture that's been set by Sesame Place. Like that, like that's a cultural thing. You know, like I mean, again, you can like if you're at your job, right? You can be at a job and people could not speak. You can say, "Hey, this person must be that person must be that they may be assholes or that they just are horrible people," or it could be like, "Well, I see this tends to go on. This more than one person is not speaking to me, walking past me and not speaking to me. So this must be just how this this must be how this culture is in regards to this workplace culture." Like I said, both things can be true from that standpoint. Like I said, this is a to me this is a easy fix. Uh, it's not painless, but it's an easy fix in terms of what the strategy that I would employ if I were the parent of these young ladies. Hey, you know what? All this Sesame Place stuff, you know what? We're done with Sesame Place. I now again, if they have Sesame Place toys, I'm not gonna throw. I'm not gonna throw those away. But no, and I will tell them we are no longer supporting Sesame Place in any shape, way, or form. We're not gonna go to the park. We're not gonna buy toys. Um, I would even go as far as hey, not watching it on television. Like you gotta go if you're gonna go all in, you gotta go 10 toes down. Can't be no half measures when it comes like this. And again, I understand again, it's very difficult with younger kids. It's not like with 10-year-olds, teenagers. You see these girls seem like they were no older than 4 or 5 or 6, if that. They might have been 4. They were very young at so like I said, 5 at the they looked 5 and 6ish. But it is something that they as African American kids, black kids are gonna have to deal with for the entirety of their lives in a sense. So it's a teaching moment. You deal with you take the short-term pain for long-term gain. So it's kind of like working out. Short-term pain, long-term gain. Again, but this is easily the biggest disappointment. Sesame Place should be embarrassed by their actions, and I wasn't even happy with the response per se. Like to be honest with you, just not even showing. The apology was weak as far as I'm concerned. The statement was weak. And if I were that parent, I would probably just go on and file a lawsuit for just for principle's sake. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast. I will have this podcast up later on this evening. You'll be able to later on this evening. I hope everybody out there enjoys the rest of their day, the rest of their week. Have a great summer as well. So long.